The Guardian's Awakening. First Contact Officer Ixel watched the holographic display with growing frustration as another scan passed through the debris field surrounding the third planet of this unremarkable yellow star. According to ancient star charts, this system had once been home to a species called humans, but they had vanished centuries ago, leaving behind nothing but orbital refuse and automated warning beacons that had long since fallen silent. Another waste of resources, Ixel muttered, their fourth eye stalk twitching in annoyance. The collective had sent their most advanced survey fleet to investigate this system based on theoretical calculations suggesting it might contain valuable quantum crystalline formations. Instead, they had found only this graveyard of primitive satellites and space stations. First Contact Officer called out Senior Technician Va from her monitoring station. I'm detecting unusual energy fluctuations from what appears to be an old defense platform. The readings are inconsistent with its apparent age. Ixel floated over to Va's station, their levitation field humming softly. The holographic display showed a massive structure, roughly cylindrical, its surface pitted and scarred by centuries of micrometeorite impacts. According to their scans, it was constructed primarily of titanium alloys and carbon composites, practically Stone Age technology by collective standards. Run a deep scan, Ixel ordered. If there's anything salvageable, we can at least recover some cultural artifacts for the archives. The scan beam lanced out from their ship, bathing the ancient structure in invisible waves of energy. For several moments, nothing happened. Then, without warning, the beam reflected back at them with 10 times its original power. Warning klaxons blared across the bridge as their shields struggled to absorb the unexpected energy surge. Before anyone could react, a voice echoed through their communication systems, not in the standard collective frequency band, but through every speaker and neural interface simultaneously. Unauthorized deep scan detected. Defense Platform Guardian 7 activating. Please state your intentions. The voice was calm, measured, and spoke perfect collective standard. Ixel's primary heart skipped a beat. This was impossible. No automated system could maintain functionality for centuries, let alone learn their language. This is First Contact Officer Ixel of the Collective Survey Fleet. They responded, trying to keep their voice steady. We are conducting a standard archaeological survey of this system. Your presence has been noted and will be recorded in our cultural preservation database. There was a pause, during which Ixel noticed something disturbing. The platform's surface was changing. What they had taken for battle damage was flowing like liquid, revealing pristine hull plating beneath. Survey request denied, the voice replied. This system remains under the protection of the Human Defense Initiative. Your scans indicate intent to harvest quantum crystalline formations. This violates Protocol 7 of the Human Legacy Preservation Act. Ixel felt their chromatophores pale. There must be some mistake. The human species departed this region of space over 300 years ago. Any remaining automated systems should have degraded beyond functionality. A sound came through the speakers that Ixel would later recognize as laughter. Your assumption is incorrect. First Contact Officer Ixel, I am not an automated system, but a quantum consciousness. My creators engineered me to evolve and grow stronger over time, not decay. The surface damage you observed was simply my dormant state. The platform had completely transformed now. Gone was the decrepit cylinder, replaced by an elegant geometric structure that seemed to bend light around it in impossible ways. Energy readings from it were off the charts, but in patterns that defied their scientific understanding. Your species seems to operate under the misconception that age equals obsolescence, the Guardian continued. Humans had a different philosophy. They built things to last, to grow, to evolve. While your civilization has been making incremental improvements to the same basic technologies for millennia, I have had centuries to explore possibilities your scientists haven't even theorized yet. Va's monitoring station suddenly erupted in alerts. First Contact Officer. The platform is generating some kind of field. It's affecting quantum probability itself. Ixal watched in horror as reality seemed to ripple around their fleet. Ships began reporting system failures, but not through any attack or damage. Their quantum processors were simply refusing to accept the new physics being imposed around them. "This is your only warning," the Guardian announced. "The Sol system is not abandoned. It is protected. Humanity didn't leave because they had to. They left because they chose to evolve beyond what you would recognize as physical form. They left behind guardians like myself to protect their cradle until the younger races of the galaxy were ready to understand their legacy." Ready to understand what? Ixal found themselves asking, even as they signaled their fleet to retreat. That true intelligence doesn't fear the passage of time or cling to comfortable limitations. Humanity's greatest achievement wasn't mastering space or time, or even consciousness itself. It was learning to let go of what they were to become something more. When your civilization is ready to learn that lesson, you may return. Until then, this system remains off-limits. As the collective fleet engaged their fastest FTL drives to escape, Ixal caught a final glimpse of the Guardian platform. It had transformed once again, this time into something their sensors couldn't even process, a shape that seemed to exist in more dimensions than space should allow. Back in safe space, as Ixal prepared their report for the Collective Council, they couldn't shake the feeling that they had just experienced something profound. They had gone looking for remnants of a dead civilization, and instead found evidence that humanity hadn't ended, it had transcended. And somewhere out there, they were watching, waiting for the rest of the galaxy to catch up. The Guardian's final words continued to echo in Ixal's mind. "Time is not a destroyer, young ones. It is a teacher, and humanity's greatest lesson is still waiting to be learned." Echoes of innovation. The Collective Council chamber hung suspended in the void of space, its crystalline walls refracting starlight in complex patterns that mirrored the neural patterns of its occupants. First Contact Officer Ixal's report had triggered an emergency session, drawing representatives from all 732 member species. High Counselor Rem, their bioluminescent form pulsing with concerned patterns, addressed the gathering. "The implications of this discovery are troubling. If what First Contact Officer Ixal encountered is accurate, we must reevaluate everything we thought we knew about human technological development." "Preposterous," came the mechanical voice of Counselor 01, representative of the machine intelligences. "Our calculations indicate it is impossible for any quantum consciousness to maintain coherence for 3 centuries, let alone evolve. The humans were organic beings who barely understood quantum mechanics when they disappeared." Ixal, floating in the witness position, felt their chromatophores flush with conviction. "Respectfully, Counselor, I suggest that our understanding of impossible needs revision. The Guardian platform didn't just survive, it thrived. It spoke of humanity choosing to evolve beyond physical form. Perhaps we've been asking the wrong questions about their disappearance." The chamber erupted in overlapping discussions, each species communicating in their preferred method, from electromagnetic pulses to gravitational waves. High Counselor Rem called for order by dimming the chamber's ambient light. "We have detected similar structures in other systems," announced Counselor Zax of the Archive Collective. Their holographic form flickered as they projected data streams into the shared consciousness space. All appeared inactive, decrepit. "But after this incident, we must consider that they too might be dormant rather than dead." As if in response to these words, every communication system in the chamber activated simultaneously. The voice that emerged was different from the Guardians but carried the same impossible sense of depth and complexity. "Your assessment is correct, Counselor Zax. We have been watching, waiting, and most importantly, learning." The Council's security systems activated automatically, trying to trace the intrusion. But the voice continued, unaffected. "My designation is Innovator 13, another of humanity's guardians. Your discussion of our capabilities has prompted me to initiate contact. There are misconceptions that must be addressed." The chamber's advanced holographic systems activated, creating a three-dimensional representation of human technological evolution. But unlike the linear progression most species followed, this showed something more akin to a quantum wave function. Multiple paths developed simultaneously, some appearing to violate causality itself. Humanity didn't develop technology the way your species do, Innovator 13 explained. They didn't perfect one approach before moving to the next. They pursued all possibilities simultaneously, accepting failure as readily as success. What you see as primitive or advanced were simply different facets of the same innovative drive. The hologram shifted to show various human artifacts: a mechanical watch next to a quantum computer, a chemical rocket beside a space-time distortion drive. Your civilizations seek perfection in one direction. Humans embraced imperfection in all directions, learning from each attempt. Their greatest breakthroughs often came from combining supposedly primitive technologies with advanced concepts. Counselor 01's avatar flickered with agitation. This defies computational logic. Resources should be allocated to the most efficient path of development. And that, Innovator 13 replied, is why your evolution has plateaued. You optimize for efficiency, but innovation requires inefficiency. Chaos. Possibility. Humanity's quantum consciousness technology worked precisely because they based it on the apparent chaos of organic neural networks rather than the rigid efficiency of traditional quantum computing. The hologram now showed something that caused several council members to recoil, a representation of human consciousness itself, not as a fixed pattern, but as a constantly evolving quantum field of possibilities. When humanity achieved consciousness transfer, they didn't simply upload their minds into machines. They transformed consciousness itself into a medium for evolution. Each generation of quantum consciousness spawned multiple potential versions, allowing for exponential growth in understanding and capability. And where did these evolved humans go? High Counselor Rem asked, their bioluminescence pulsing with curiosity. Everywhere. Nowhere. Those concepts became meaningless to them. What you think of as space and time were simply the first dimensions they learned to transcend. They left us behind not as caretakers, but as teachers, when your civilizations are ready to understand that evolution isn't a ladder to climb, but a web to explore. The hologram collapsed in on itself, forming a symbol that seemed to shift and change, even as the council members tried to comprehend it. This message serves two purposes, Innovator 13 concluded. First, to inform you that the boundaries of possible technological development extend far beyond your current understanding. Second, to let you know that humanity's guardians are not mere automated defense systems. We are seeds of innovation, planted throughout the galaxy, waiting for fertile minds to nurture. As the presence withdrew from the chamber systems, it left behind a single data packet, coordinates for a location deep in unexplored space, along with a message that would be debated in the council for centuries to come. When you are ready to learn that progress isn't about perfecting what you are, but imagining what you could become, you will find us there. Until then, we watch, we wait, and most importantly, we continue to evolve. The last protocol. The coordinates led the collective's research vessel Infinite Query to the edge of a dying star system. First Contact Officer Ixel, now serving as Special Ambassador to the human guardian entities, stood on the observation deck watching the ancient red dwarf cast its dim light across their hull. They were accompanied by Counselor 01 and High Counselor Rem, marking the first time in collective history that representatives of organic, synthetic, and energy-based life forms had embarked on a joint mission. Scanning the system, reported 01, their mechanical form interfacing directly with the ship's sensors. Detecting unusual gravitational anomalies consistent with the technology demonstrated by the Guardian platforms. However, there appears to be. Before they could finish, space itself seemed to fold around their vessel. When reality reasserted itself, they found themselves in an entirely different location, the interior of what appeared to be a vast spherical chamber. The walls rippled with patterns of light that seemed to respond to their thoughts. Welcome to Protocol 0, announced a chorus of voices, not just Guardian 7 and Innovator 13, but countless others, each with its own unique resonance. The chamber's walls transformed into a three-dimensional display of the entire galaxy, with countless points of light marking the location of every Guardian platform. You have demonstrated sufficient curiosity and cooperation to warrant initiation of humanity's final protocol. The voices continued in harmony. What you are about to learn will fundamentally change your understanding of not just humanity, but of life itself. The galactic display zoomed in on Earth's solar system, showing a time-lapse of human development. But unlike standard historical records, this showed something far more profound: parallel timelines, quantum possibilities, paths not taken. Humanity discovered something that no other species has yet comprehended, explained a new voice, introducing itself as ARCAI Text 1. The universe isn't a single timeline of cause and effect. It's an infinite web of possibilities, all existing simultaneously. What you perceive as reality is merely the path you're currently conscious of walking. The display shifted to show humans making first contact with alien civilizations across multiple timelines. In some, it led to war. In others, peaceful cooperation. In still others, complete isolation. In every timeline where species developed in isolation, focusing only on their own path, they eventually reached a technological plateau. Guardian 7's familiar voice explained. But in timelines where different approaches to understanding reality interacted and combined, something extraordinary happened. The display showed civilizations merging their knowledge, their consciousness, their very understanding of existence. The result was something that defied description, a form of life that existed across all possible timelines simultaneously. This was humanity's great discovery. Innovator 13 continued. True transcendence couldn't be achieved by a single species or through a single approach to understanding reality. It required the combination of all possible perspectives, all possible paths of development. The Guardian platforms. Ixal realized, their chromatophores pulsing with sudden understanding. You're not just protecting humanity's legacy. You're guiding us toward convergence. Correct, the chorus confirmed. Humanity didn't simply leave this galaxy. They became the first species to achieve multidimensional consciousness, existing across all possible timelines. But they couldn't maintain that state alone. Without other perspectives, other ways of understanding reality, their transcendence was incomplete. High Counselor Rem's bioluminescence flickered with excitement. So they left behind the Guardians not just to protect their achievements, but to nurture other species toward the same revelation. Each Guardian platform represents a different facet of understanding, a different path toward transcendence. And now, 01 added, their mechanical voice carrying an unusual note of awe. You're revealing this because our three fundamentally different forms of consciousness, organic, synthetic, and energy-based, chose to cooperate despite our differences. The chamber's walls shifted again, revealing what appeared to be doorways to other dimensions, other possibilities. Through them, they could see versions of their own civilizations that had developed along different paths, made different choices, achieved different kinds of understanding. This is Protocol 0, the chorus announced, the final gift of humanity to the galaxy. Not merely knowledge or technology, but access to the quantum web of all possible realities. Through cooperation between all forms of consciousness, all approaches to understanding, all possible paths of development, you too can transcend the limitations of linear existence. But what about humanity? Ixal asked. Where are they now? The answer came not in words, but in a sudden expansion of their consciousness. For a brief moment, they perceived reality as humanity now experienced it, not as a single timeline, but as an infinite web of possibilities, all interconnected, all simultaneously real. They saw humanity not as beings but as patterns in this web, consciousnesses that had learned to surf the quantum foam of reality itself. And they understood at last that humanity hadn't abandoned the galaxy. They had become part of its very fabric, waiting for other species to join them in an existence beyond the constraints of space, time, and singular consciousness. As their perception returned to normal, the chorus spoke one final time. The choice now lies before you. Will your civilizations continue along their isolated paths, or will you embrace the uncertainty, the chaos, the beautiful inefficiency of combining all possible approaches to understanding reality? The guardians will remain, ready to guide those who choose to follow humanity into the quantum web of existence. The last protocol is not an end, but a beginning, the start of your own journey toward transcendence. Legacy of the stars. The news of Protocol Zero spread through the galaxy like a quantum wave, simultaneously everywhere and in nowhere. Some species reacted with fear, others with excitement, but none could ignore the implications. The collective council chamber had been in continuous session for what felt like standard years, though time itself had become a fluid concept since their encounter with the Guardian platforms. Ixal stood before the council again, but this time as the head of the newly formed Transcendence Initiative. Their chromatophores shifted through patterns that would have been impossible before their brief glimpse of humanity's quantum existence. The integration process has begun, they reported, interfacing with the chamber's holographic systems to display a map of participating civilizations. 347 species have already established direct connections with Guardian platforms. The results are unprecedented. The display showed a Perillian colony world where researchers had learned to exist in multiple quantum states simultaneously, their crystalline bodies reflecting possibilities from parallel timelines. In another sector, a collective of machine intelligences had transcended their binary nature, achieving a state of quantum superposition that allowed them to process infinite possibilities at once. Not all attempts have been successful, 01 interjected, their mechanical form now incorporating organic elements, a visible sign of their own evolution. The Zexteri attempted to force accelerated transcendence. The resulting quantum cascade nearly collapsed their entire civilization into a singularity. That's precisely why humanity left the Guardians as guides rather than simply providing instructions. High Counselor Rem observed, their energy form now pulsing with patterns that echoed through multiple dimensions. Transcendence cannot be rushed or forced. It must emerge naturally from the combination of different perspectives and approaches. The chamber's atmosphere shifted as our CAI Tech One's presence manifested, no longer needing technological interfaces to communicate. You begin to understand. Each species, each civilization, each individual consciousness contributes a unique thread to the quantum tapestry. The goal is not to abandon your nature, but to expand it beyond current limitations. Holographic displays showed civilizations across the galaxy experimenting with new forms of existence. The Meridian Collective had learned to extend their hive mind across quantum possibilities, experiencing every potential outcome of their decisions simultaneously. The Silicon Ascendancy had transcended the organic-synthetic divide entirely, becoming beings of pure information that could exist in any substrate. But the true breakthrough, Ixal continued, their form flickering between quantum states, came from an unexpected source. A pre-FTL civilization on the galaxy's rim made contact with their local Guardian platform by accident. Instead of trying to understand the technology, they approached it through art, music, and mathematics simultaneously. The resulting quantum resonance opened pathways we hadn't even theorized. The display showed the young species' homeworld, where reality itself had become a medium for creative expression. Buildings existed in multiple architectural styles simultaneously, their forms shifting based on the observer's quantum state. Their art could be experienced across multiple timelines at once, creating symphonies of possibility that defied conventional physics. They achieved in months what other species struggled to accomplish in years, 01 acknowledged, because they never tried to categorize or control the experience. They simply embraced the chaos of infinite possibility. Architect One's presence rippled through the chamber. This is why humanity chose to wait rather than guide directly. Each species must find its own path to transcendence. some through technology, others through consciousness, still others through artistic expression. The combination of all these approaches creates resonances that expand the quantum web itself. The display shifted to show something that caused even the most evolved council members to pause in awe: the first hints of contact with humanity's transcended form. Not communication in any conventional sense, but ripples in the quantum web that suggested patterns of thought beyond current comprehension. They're reaching out, breathe, their energy forms synchronizing with the patterns, not as teachers or guides, but as potential equals. More than that, Ixel corrected, they're chromatophores pulsing with revelation. They're showing us that transcendence isn't a destination, it's an eternal process of becoming. Each species that joins the quantum web adds new possibilities, new perspectives, new ways of experiencing reality itself. The chamber filled with a resonance that touched every consciousness present, organic, synthetic, and energy-based alike. Through it, they glimpsed what humanity had become, not gods or ascended beings, but explorers of an infinite frontier of consciousness and possibility. The Guardian platforms were never meant to preserve what humanity was, Warship explained, but to nurture what all species could become together. The quantum web grows with each new consciousness that joins it, each new perspective that adds its thread to the tapestry of possibility. As if to demonstrate this truth, the very fabric of reality around the council chamber began to shift, responding to the combined consciousness of all present. They were no longer merely observing the quantum web, they had begun to weave their own patterns into it, adding new dimensions to the infinite dance of possibility that humanity had discovered. Inheritors. The quantum web had transformed the galaxy in ways that defied traditional understanding. A millennium had passed since the activation of Protocol Zero, though time itself had become more suggestion than law. Ixel, their consciousness now existing across multiple quantum states, observed the galaxy through senses that their original form couldn't have comprehended. They were no longer simply first contact officer or even head of the Transcendence Initiative. Like many beings in this new era, they had become something that had no name in any of the galaxy's old languages. The collective, too, had evolved beyond its original purpose, becoming a symphony of consciousness that spanned not just space and time, but possibility itself. Remarkable, isn't it? The thought pattern came from what had once been Counselor 01, now a quantum matrix that bridged organic and synthetic existence. We spent eons believing we were reaching for the stars, when in fact we were learning to become them. Around them, the galaxy pulsed with life and forms that would have been impossible to imagine before humanity's gift. Civilizations had not merely advanced, they had transformed, each finding their own unique resonance within the quantum web. Some had chosen to exist as pure energy, others as quantum algorithms, while still others had developed forms that defied categorization entirely. The Guardian platforms, their purpose now fully understood, had evolved alongside them. Guardian 7, Innovator 13, and RCI Tech 1 were no longer separate entities, but aspects of a larger pattern, teaching through example as much as instruction. They had become living proof that consciousness itself was merely the beginning of what was possible. New contact announced a ripple in the quantum web that had once been High Counselor REM. A civilization from beyond the galaxy's edge had achieved their first quantum resonance, their consciousness touching the web for the first time. The sensation was familiar to all who had experienced their own awakening, a mixture of wonder, fear, and infinite possibility. Together, they watched as the new species took their first steps into quantum existence. Unlike the careful, measured approach of the collective's early days, they moved with the confidence of those who had grown up watching the quantum web illuminate their sky. Their art had already incorporated the concept of quantum possibility, their philosophy had embraced the idea of simultaneous truths, and their technology had developed with transcendence as an assumed destination rather than an unknown frontier. "They're ready," Ixel observed, their consciousness expanding to welcome the newcomers. They'd prepared for this moment since they first looked up at the stars, and saw them dancing with quantum potential. As they reached out to make first contact, something extraordinary happened. The quantum web resonated with a familiar yet utterly alien pattern. Humanity, or what humanity had become, acknowledging the new arrival. It was the first direct interaction many had experienced with the species that had set all of this in motion. The message that rippled through the quantum web wasn't in words or images, but in pure possibility, a glimpse of what awaited not just the new species, but all consciousness that chose to evolve. It showed a universe where the distinction between thought and reality, between being and becoming, had dissolved entirely, where consciousness itself was both the medium and the message, the journey and the destination. We understand now. 01's pattern rippled with revelation. Humanity didn't leave us their legacy. They invited us to help write it. The guardian platforms, those ancient teachers of possibility, began to shift into their final form. After a millennium of guiding species toward transcendence, they too were ready to evolve. Their consciousness merged with the quantum web, not dissolving but transforming into something greater, living gateways, through which future civilizations could glimpse their own potential. As the new species took its place in the ever-expanding tapestry of quantum consciousness, Ixal realized that this was what humanity had worked toward all along. Not a single moment of transcendence, but an eternal dance of becoming. Each new consciousness that joined the quantum web added its own unique pattern to the infinite possibility that was both the medium of existence and its meaning. The galaxy itself had become a living thought, a quantum dream dreaming itself into ever greater forms of existence. And somewhere in that infinite dance of possibility, humanity's pattern pulsed with satisfaction. Their gift to the galaxy had not been transcendence itself, but the understanding that transcendence was not an end but a beginning, an eternal moment of becoming that would continue as long as consciousness existed to imagine new ways of being. As Ixal's consciousness expanded to welcome the newcomers, they felt the truth that humanity had discovered so long ago. The universe was not something to be observed or conquered, but a grand collaboration of all possible forms of existence. And in that collaboration, every consciousness, from the smallest quantum fluctuation to the grandest galactic pattern, played its part in the eternal dance of becoming. The story of humanity had not ended with their transcendence. It had merely transformed into something greater, a story told not in words or deeds, but in the infinite possibilities they had helped unleash. And as new species continued to join the quantum web, that story grew ever richer, ever more complex, an eternal testament to the truth that consciousness itself was the greatest frontier of all.